Okay, I'm back. So we have our base album that we made, and I have my hinge in here, my hidden hinge. And like I told you in the other video I had, I went to paperphenomenon.com. And if you already know how to make a hidden hinge, that's great. I will tell you, I can't teach you how to make it because I don't have a license, but it's out there. And if you go on Paper Phenomenon, there's also beautiful papers and tutorials you can look at. And I will tell you though that the measurement I used is 9 7/8 by 8.5 across. So with that, there's one other trick I did. I cut these, I don't know if you can see here, at an angle. I cut each hinge at an angle so that when I put my page on top, it'll just fit nicely, like that. So what we're going to do now is make our pocket pages, and there's 4 of them. So I will make the first one with you, and then you can make the other 3. So we're going to need 8 pieces of paper cut 8 by 10.5. Okay, so let's get going. So we've got 10.5 by 8. And I always save my extra pieces, come in handy. Okay. Now we're going to score these a 1/2 inch on the 10.5 inch side. Now when I say 10.5 inch side, I don't mean score along the 10.5 inch side. I mean the 10.5 inch side faces up. Now the paper I'm using has one side linen texture and the other side's flat. When I score, I put the flat side up because it folds better. So I'll make a 1/2 inch on each of these papers. You can also use a scoreboard if you want to. I just had that score for years and I love it. So I'm going to put some 3/8 inch tape on now the linen side facing up. Give it a nice burnish here and fold each one. Okay. Now I have a little way that I get these to line up pretty easily. I'll show you. So I take one side of the paper, I just took the backing off, and the side I'm sticking it to is just below it. I line these up so that they're touching, so there's no space. And I'm looking here on the side to make sure this side lines up, and I'm just going to press that one side down, not the rest of it yet. Move myself over here to the other side, make sure that lines up, make sure there's no space right here, and press that down, and then press it down. And it comes out perfect every time. So for the other side, so can't do that exact same thing. What I usually do is have the side that I'm sticking it to down and this side. Now if you just gently let it lay, but you don't just flop it down. You want to at least make sure one corner is even. So carefully. You can use your thumb to guide it. So these line up. I felt that with my thumb. And then I can just press the rest down. And there you go. Now before you go cut 6 more pieces of paper and make 3 more pages, you do want to take your book that you made and just make extra sure that it fits, which it does. Now you can put all 3 pages in here and work on them that way, but for space, I'm going to just work on each page and then put them in the book. So we will do page 1 now. I gotta say though, the first page is the hardest. Not that it's terribly difficult, it's just got a lot involved with it. So the rest of the book will seem easy after this. So our page 1, we're gonna need to cut some flaps and pockets. So there's 4 flaps and a pocket. I'm gonna go over those with you. Flap A is going to be 8 1/4 by 9 3/4. I don't know if you could see that. I'll hold it. 8 3/4 by, 8 1/4 by 9 3/4. Flap B is going to be 9 3/4 by 7 7/8. C is going to be 7 3/4 by 7 1/2. D is going to be 7 3/4 by 5. And our pocket is going to be 8 3/4 by 3 1/4. All right, so now I'm going to score these. You can hit pause until you get all your papers cut. And when you're ready, here we go. Flap A, which is our 8 1/4 by 9 3/4. That we're going to score 1/2 inch on an 8 1/4 side. So when I say 8 1/4 side, the 8 1/4 is facing the top. And again, when I score, I got the flat side facing up. Okay, our B flap is going to be 1/2 inch on the 7 1/8 side. C, so our top flap, is the 7 inch side is facing up. Now this is close because it's hard to eyeball 7 3/4 and 7 1/2. So I'm going to just measure and make sure. That's my 7 1/2. So I want the 7 1/2 facing up. I'll score that. D, 7 3/4 by 5. I want the 5 inch side facing up. And our pocket is going to be lengthwise, so we want to score 3 sides. Okie doke. Now for this, what I used to do is right where the two lines intersect, I would just cut a straight line. But I'm not going to do that this time. I have a different way that I like better. So basically, I'm going to cut right up to where the lines intersect, where the folds intersect. And then I'm going to tilt my scissors outward and continue to cut. So it makes like a little arrow pointing in. And I will show you when I'm putting this together why I like that better. And here we'll do the same thing on the other side. So my triangle is pointing in. Okay, now I'm going to put score tape. And I'm going to use the 3/8 inch. I actually probably should have put the score tape first before I cut, but that's okay. I usually do, but sometimes I get ahead of myself. Now, I'll show you the reason why I like this. I'm going to take just a little part of the bottom tape off. Oops, there we go. And then that way I can stick the side down and it holds. If I didn't have that little extra groove from making that cut at an angle, it wouldn't do that. And this just comes in handy when you go to lay down the pocket. And there's another reason why I like it also, is that when you got this in your book and you're putting a paper in here, sometimes it gets stuck on this bottom piece, but it gets stuck a lot less if I do it this way. So give it a try, see if you like it, rather than doing the straight across cut. And you'll see. Sometimes I just pick up tricks along the way. So now we're going to go ahead and got all our score marks on our paper, so I want to put the tape. Let's put our tape on, and then we're going to start laying things down on top of our first page. And I like to burnish it because it makes it easier when you peel off the tape. That's just a good thing to do. Okay, so let's start putting them down. So we have our first page, and it's not a bad idea just to label each page somewhere. It's going to all be covered up with design paper, but I'm going to put page 1 right here, just so I know. And that way, when I flip it over, I know also which side faces up. So I usually put mine to the top. So on page 1. Flap A is going to go on the left-hand side. Now, when you put it down, let's see, you got a decision here to make. When you're putting it down, see how that looks, and decide if you want to just leave it, squared off edges, or would you like a rounded edge right here. And I oftentimes I like to round the edge just so you know you're supposed to lift it up. So I do that a lot of times. I've got a We Are memory punch, and it's got 3 different, so you got a small, medium, and a really rounded edge. Usually go medium. You can use any corner rounder. I just love this one. Okay. So let's lay down flap A. Okay. Now, you want to look and make sure, and you can use your fingers to feel, but you want to get right up to the end. And you'll have a little bit at the top and bottom, so just make sure that's even. Looks good to you. There we go. Okay, that's our first flap. We got the right hand flap. Same thing, I'm gonna round here. This is the B page. The same thing. Now this one's gonna go over top of the left flap, but let's do the same thing. We'll line it up, feel with our fingers. Looks good. Okay. The top flap is C. And our C is the 7 3/4 by 7 1/2. Okay. And I think I am going to round that one also. Now with this, you gotta, yeah, you got plenty of room. When you lay down a flap and it's near a crease, you don't want it on top of the crease or any too close, or else when you close it, it bends this paper. So we've got a little bit of room on each side. You can go right up to the top. And there you go. Flap D goes on the bottom. Now this, I'm gonna put the side without tape and just line it up here. Put it right on top of flap C so you can get it so that they're both at the same distance apart. Fold this under and get right up to the bottom. There we go. A little bit off, not terrible. A little bit of a perfectionist. So what you can do, got a little bit of undo here. It's just a little overhanging on that side, so move it. There, perfect. That dries nice, you can't even tell. Love undo. Okay, now for our pocket. Gotta give that a second to dry. Now our pocket we have here. So I'm gonna take off all the tape. All right. Now again, we don't want it too close to where this fold is here, because this has to fold over top of the pocket. So I'm going to leave myself like 1/8 of an inch. Make sure I have some room on both sides. There. And burnish that down. Nice. Okay. Now, got so many flips and flaps. We're going to have some magnets to hold all this down. So let's do that. I use basic gray magnets. I like them because there's tape on each side. I use the small usually. Every once in a while I need the big ones because you got something real thick to hold down, real heavy. So I have that on hand, but I mainly use the small ones. You can use any kind of magnets. You can use ones that don't come with tape and glue on them. And then you just take your tape right here and tape some down and do that way. So you don't have to get the kind that already have tape on them. You can use any kind of magnet. All right, so I generally put the plus side down first just so I know what went first, and if I ever lose track. If I ever need to add another magnet, I'll know which one I need. So it's a habit I got myself into. We'll do the top flap. Go right up there, and when I have a magnet down, I also like to put tape across. So make sure, even though it's got tape on it, I still want to make sure it holds down. Now it's a trick of mine. I don't know if you've probably seen this before, but you put the other side, the negative, instead of guessing where it goes, you just put it on top of your positive and you close your flap. Press it down a little, and there it is. Then you put some tape on that one. Now we'll do the bottom flap. Probably out of frame here, but there we go. Doesn't have to be exactly centered. You just want the flap to stay closed. And what we want to do, we don't want to go on the bottom. This flap would be down. Hold on 1 second. And this one is going to be on top of it. So we're going to, this comes right up to that pocket. All right. I might want to move this pocket down a little bit, but we'll get there. Just because these are touching, which I didn't realize. So anyway, I'm going to put this right up here and tape that down. Yeah. So when I said leave 1/8 of an inch, I think I put it down more like 1/4. No problem. You can't get away with not using your undo even just once. I'll give that a second to dry before I put this down again. Okay. So we'll put our other magnets. right hand flap. Use a lot of magnets on this page, but it's okay. Let's see. I'm not gonna put that down just yet. I wanna do this side first. Give myself time to dry over here half a second. Okay. Hopefully you've been able to hear me. I had the microphone up a little too high. Okay. So I'm going to take this off here. Put my pocket back. Just going to get a little closer to that fold, but still got to be careful not to go too close to it. Okay. So we need to go this way, that way. Then this one is going to close first. And our right hand side goes on top. Ta-da! Now, what we're gonna do, we have in the book, we have a pocket page that goes, a little pocket with a window that goes up here. I can make that now, but we're not gonna stick it down because I have to put the design paper on first. So I'm gonna set this aside and we'll make our little